being okay with people not liking your work is a big part of it, because not everyone is going to. And I feel like as a self-published sort of indie author, there's that like fine line of go big and sell thousands of books. But at the same time, it's kind of nice if only the people who like you buy them, because they're all going to say nice things. So double-edged sword, I guess. But having a bit of a thick skin, not so thick that you lose that vulnerability, I guess, but enough to know that like not every book is for every person.
Thank you for tuning into Unfiltered Voices. I'm Kelly Nissen, and I'm all about shining a light on the self-publication industry, because self-published is never second-rate. Katherine Richardson, welcome to Unfiltered Voices.
Thanks so much for having me. It's so nice to be here.
That's an absolute pleasure. So, Kat is an author and an illustrator from Tasmania, and she spent the best part of her 20s climbing the corporate ladder, only to decide that the year that she turned 30 to throw it all away in favour of pursuing a more creative life, a decision that she hasn't regretted for a second. Kat has published 2 picture books, Diary of a Red Handfish and The Things Enid Can Tell You. So, Kat, your 2 picture books centre around vastly different themes, with your Diary of a Red Handfish, which was your first book, being an environmental theme and a close to a narrative non-fiction genre, whereas The Things Enid Can Tell You features a main character with ADHD. So can you talk us through both of those books and why they're important to you?
Yeah, sure. So the Diary of a Red Handfish, I'll just give you a little squeeze. I wrote this in 2020, and it's funny you say like they're vastly different, because they are, but they're both like these 2 kind of polar opposite parts of me. And I think like as a kid, I was really into science, and like I did science at uni for a little while and then decided that was too hard. But I wanted to sort of somehow merge, I guess, those couple of bits of me into one. And so that was how it sort of came about. And I went to the Tassie Writers Festival years ago, and they had this environmental fiction panel, and I was like, oh, cool. So my mum and I went along, and it was just this awesome, I hadn't even really thought about it as a genre I could enter into, this awesome like panelist of illustrators and authors who'd written these books that were bringing like the world's eyes onto especially Tasmanian and like lower kind of southern hemisphere animals. And my mum was really into Handfish at that time, and she was like, oh, that's what you need to do, you need to write a book about Handfish, quick. So I was like, okay, great. And it was funny because I actually I started writing it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna see if I can get it published, and I'll approach a few. I think I went to see as I wrote, and the girl there was gorgeous. She was so nice. She was like, that is a beautiful book, great idea. We just signed a different one on Handfish, so not this time. And I was like, dang it. But I was like, okay, cool, I'll just self-publish. I had an uncle who does a lot of self-publishing, so he sort of talked me through a lot of it, did all the illustrations, and writing kind of in my spare time on my like old Surface Pro that I had with Photoshop back in the day. And then it sort of came like I worked with a scientist at IMAS. I approached and just said, I'm not really sure about like what you do, and like, can you tell me a bit about it? And I just kind of got her to give me the sort of layman's terms, I guess, but the scientific project that they were working on, which was fish, kind of a breeding program, I guess, because there was only about 80 of them at that time, of the red handfish in the world. And she sent that kind of through, like I had a chat with her, and then she kind of typed it all up, and I basically just looked at that and dotted it out into more child-friendly terms, and from there I turned it into kind of a diary format. And it was really cool. It was really nice to kind of be a part of that world that I really wanted to be in, but academically just wasn't my cup of tea. But I sort of felt like I was still almost where I'd thought I'd be. Yeah, so that's the Handfish book. It's 6 years old now. Oh, I do so many things differently, but it's still out there in the world.
I think that's the nice thing about independently publishing, is that you can keep that print run going for as long as you like.
Yes.
Because I'm pretty sure I know the other Handfish book that you're talking about. It's a local Canberra author.
There you go.
don't think it's still in production.
Yeah, right.
Because it was like it was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
They don't have a massive print run.
No, that was something I wasn't really aware of until talking to a few Tassie authors. Caroline Martin, who I'm really close with down here, she's been published by Scholastic and Ellen and I'm on a few others. And there was a copy of her book, and I was like, oh, I'll have to grab one of those. It's from like 2018. She's like, oh, sadly not in print anymore. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean it's not in print? It's like not even 10 years old. She's like, no, it doesn't just keep going. Like
they have such a short print run and life. Picture books in particular, unless you end up being one of the classics.
Exactly. And then I guess they knew, but no, it's handy to be able to be like, oh, like, you know, I haven't sold any for a while. I'll just order like 20 and just go around the bookshops or market.
So that is one of the pros that, like, as much as we talk on this show about the pros and some of the cons of self-publishing, we haven't actually mentioned the fact that you've got that print run whenever you want.
And it's definitely something like, I mean, you know, I guess if I was to be able to be like with a publishing company, I wouldn't be necessarily having to pay for the print and stuff myself, but I think it's quite handy if you're not someone who's got, you know, stacks of cash behind you to print your own book. You can just order 20, 30, whatever. And it's only going to be hundreds of dollars, not thousands. Whereas even some of like the offshore printers and stuff I've seen people use, which the quality seems really good, but they're having to order 500, 5,000, like so many books. And I'm like, I don't have that much confidence in my marketing skills.
I know, the last thing you want is a shed full of boxes and boxes of books.
Oh God, I just have to like lock the door and never look at it again. I'd be so like just too overwhelmed.
These are all mine. Yes.
Yeah, just make it four.
Please make them yours. Yeah. Anyway, just back to the things Enid can.
Yeah, so this is the things Enid can tell you, which is my second picture book.
So cute.
And thank you. Yeah, the things Enid can tell you, it's like you said, it is around a girl with ADHD. Your brain is a wonderful place, actually, is one of the names of one of the books, but that are very obviously like neuroaffirming. If you have ADHD, autism, whatever, these are the books that you know are going to center you. And I love that those are out there and like we need more of them. But I think not even purposefully, but when I was writing Enid, I was sort of just telling my story, I guess. And I just wanted it to be a book that featured someone like me, but it wasn't necessarily going to be Enid has ADHD and she can't do these things. It does tell you what she can and can't do, but you don't necessarily, like if you don't have ADHD, say, you're not going to read it and be like, no, this isn't about me. You're still going to hopefully be able to find some of that kind of relevance of like the things that you find hard and the things that, you know, at the end of the day, you don't want to try and have to do all the time. Because everyone has that, obviously, whether or not you have ADHD or just a human. So yeah, I think like when I was writing it, it was one of those books that just wrote in like an evening. It's only, I don't know, 300 or 400 words, I think, so it's not long, but it just rolled out of me, and it honestly didn't change all that much, which is surprising. But it kind of just, yeah, it was almost like this weird stream of consciousness thing, because even Enid, like I was a massive Enid Blind fan, still am, but as a kid, and I was like, her name's Enid, like I just knew straight away, and I was like, all these little things in it that are kind of things that I know are about me, and like even in the illustrations, there's sort of bits of like my childhood and like little toys hidden here and there, and like there's a page where she's listening to her iPod in the middle of her messy room, and Nikki Webster's Strawberry Kisses is playing on the, you know, little iPod Nano, and there's sort of things that I think hopefully people who don't know me and, you know, my story personally will just go, oh, that's a nice little, you know, 90s touch or that kind of thing. People who do know me, who've read it, have gone, oh my God, like you put this in there. And I'm like, oh, yes, that's you. Yeah, little like reference and stuff. I think I'm a very nostalgic kind of person.
It is nice that it's your story, but it is equally as applicable to anybody who's going to read it.
I think,
also knowing that I think if you're writing about yourself, that there are going to be hundreds of people out there that will connect.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I feel like I was saying to someone earlier, like I wanted it to feel authentic. I didn't want it to feel like I was telling someone else's story or I was telling other people this is how you feel. And I just kind of wanted it to be like, it's okay if you feel a bit like meh sometimes. You're still a pretty cool person. 9 out of 10 kids are going to feel like that regardless of who they are. And like they're still cool kids, you know, just because you're a bit messy or, you know, you didn't do your homework or whatever. We don't focus enough on the things we can do. And I still am terrible for that. But I try to use it as a reminder for me as well.
So I think that's a really nice message, actually. So you've touched there on some of the things that inspired you to write your first 2 books. But in the sort of the big picture, deciding to write and actually following through to publication, we know it's a long game. So what actually inspired you to start writing in the first place and to go on that journey?
I think, like, if I kind of look back at, like, my childhood and stuff, I was always writing, always drawing. My mum would make little books for me. She'd get A4 print paper, staple it, and write my stories in there for me, and I'd draw the pictures. I had some really cool primary school teachers who did a lot of literature, which was really cool. So I feel like it kind of began all the way back then. I probably hadn't written any picture book kind of stories before I sort of got into these ones. I've got novels on the go and middle grade books and nothing that had ever kind of seen the light of day. But I think when I started working, I just picked up a couple of little like illustration jobs in maybe like 2019. And I think doing that and seeing those actually move forward maybe was like the prompt that went like, oh, like you can do this. Like other people like the things you do. Not that that should be the defining factor, but always helps. And I guess maybe the self-publishing kind of movement was a bit more accessible. It was sort of, it wasn't like you either try and publish or nothing. So I think then I sort of took the pressure off myself a bit maybe too, rather than being like, you have to write this now. Like they both took me probably a year, both of them each, which in my brain is like a very long time. I feel like I'm normally like, if I can't do it today, I'm not doing it. So I feel like that's probably the thing I'm most proud of with them is that I didn't stop doing them just because they were taking a long time. I guess having other work in between, I could just kind of be like, oh, I'm sick of doing client work or corporate work or whatever. I'll just work a little bit on Enid tonight. Or it was almost like a reward. And I kept just kind of thinking like, if I don't finish, it doesn't matter. Like I'm still working on it. It's, it's just there as like a nice little like relaxation almost at the end of the day. And then when it started to roll along, I was like, oh, actually, I think I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's nice. I think it's important that you do enjoy the process as well.
Yeah, I think like, I love all the work that I do and I'm so lucky to actually like do what I wanted to do basically as a kid, but it's still work. Like it's still things that have deadlines that I have to invoice for, that I have to have admin in my brain for, that I have to complete to a certain standard for other people, all of which is fair and all of which is still a good part of my job. But when I'm doing something for myself, it's like, it doesn't matter. If I never pick this up again, it's just there if I need it.
Yeah, so it is nice. The fact that you're now doing what you wanted to do as a child. I mean, there are people that can say that, but they're few and far between. And there's a quote along the lines of, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. I can't even remember who said that.
Yeah.
It is true, isn't it?
Yeah. I feel like I've heard an extension of that. Somebody else like quoted that and added something along the lines of, and if you do what you really love, you'll work every single day, something like that. And I feel like I'm constantly doing it. Like, my kid goes to bed, I'm back on my computer, on my iPad, or I'm watching TV, but I'm drawing, or sorry, I can't do bedtime tonight, I'm doing this. Like, it's a massive juggle, but I'm never like, oh, I got to do work. Like, oh, it's a work day, yay. And I never had that before. Like,
yes.
I love every part of my life, but it is nice to not be like, ugh, Monday. I'm like, Monday, my day, do my things.
Yeah, I've got to go and add this illustration or tweak that sentence or whatever. So given that you're an author as well as an illustrator, when you're writing new stories, do they arrive for you first as words or as pictures?
The successful ones, the ones that have made it out of the brain, have been words first. I have 2 other books that I've done almost all the illustrations for, but I can't write the story. I know like the story in terms of like a rough plot, but it's for some reason the words don't want to come. So I think that that's the wrong way to do it for me. Or I think write picture books with no words.
Yes. Well, that's a thing. There are some very good. I'm thinking Freya Blackwood's The Boy and the Elephant. Amazing. And I know with that one in particular, on Storybox Library, they've set it to music, the cello, and it is amazing.
These I'm like, I don't want to just leave these, or maybe I could just put them together and just be like, here, put it in a new something, just something to be like, I did these.
Yeah, let people devise their own story.
Yeah.
That excites me. I think, I used to be an EALD teacher, so working with children from speakers of other languages, and the wordless picture books were gold.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Even my little boy's 3, and like he still picks up the books that he, loved as a baby, and like even the ones that are just like the little like sensory kind of picture books. Like he loves those, and he'll tell me a story. It'll be one of those like black and white baby things. He's like, "Oh, look, the bear's going to the picnic." I'm like, "It's just a bear," but I don't tell him that obviously. But I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
like just you telling the story."
Yeah, I know the imagination of kids and what they see. So, key qualities that make somebody an author or an illustrator, what would you say? What qualities do we need to have?
I think vulnerability is probably like a very high up my list one, like, and a willingness to sort of to share. And I mean, not that you have to share absolutely everything that you do, and you probably shouldn't. I'm very much of a open book oversharer, like mouth open, words coming out. But I think like, and some of that I think does work in my favor, because I think you're never going to know if you want to do something as a living, or if you don't share it, people aren't going to know you. They're not going to know who you are. They're not going to know the story behind it. And like and I mean, I'm very much not great at this, but being okay with people not liking your work as well is a big part of it, because not everyone is going to. And I feel like as a self-published sort of indie author, there's that like fine line of like, you want to go big and sell thousands of books, but at the same time, it's kind of nice if only the people who like you buy them, because they're all going to say nice things. So it's sort of like double-edged sword, I guess. But having a bit of a thick skin, not so thick that you lose that vulnerability, I guess, but enough to know that like not every book is for every person.
I mean, even the very high-profile authors say we don't look at Goodreads. We don't read our reviews, because there's always going to be somebody on there who's just there to be nasty.
People who hate Possum Magic, like, what do you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, everybody's different, which is nice, and we all have different tastes, but still having somebody say they don't like your work is like having your heart ripped out through your mouth.
Yeah, because that's it. I feel like in any kind of writing, but especially in children's writing, so much of what I feel like people put into those books is from their own inner child. So it's not just telling someone who's a 30-year-old they don't like your work, it's them being like, "Oh, you're a little baby and I don't like you."
Yes.
And that feels like really mean.
I know, exactly. It's tricky, but it's a life that we choose, that creative life. And speaking of that, you said that you threw your corporate career away at the age of 30. And this fascinates me, because I waited until I was 47, 48 before I did that. And when I read that, I'm so impressed. That's a massive move at that age. For somebody like me who's very risk averse, which is why it took me so long, it's terrifying, but really very noteworthy. So I suspect at the time or beforehand that you received advice from a number of people in the creative world. So what was the best piece of advice that you were given? And so double-edged question here. On the opposite end, what's a piece of advice you were given that you now disagree with?
Okay, I think like the best sort of piece of advice, and I can't nail it down to exactly who said this, probably quite a few people, but because I basically quit my job pretty much cold turkey, wasn't in like a great place with it, and I just sort of went, I can't do this anymore. I've had a few moments in my life where I've just gone, literally nothing in the world can make me do this anymore. And it might be like a spin class, or it might be completely uprooting my life. But it was one of those moments where I can't walk through those doors ever again. And I remember saying to a few people close to me, and even like my parents and stuff, and I think it was sort of the advice that you can just go back to a different job. Like, jobs are there. So I've still got a good resume. I've still got options. Having that kind of in the back of my head, part of me was like, no, I don't want to know that. Like, I won't do it if it's not scary enough. But I think having that as a fail-safe of like a good resume, I am human who can do things. I can go and be a gardener if I want. Like, there will be something that will pay me to not lose my house. Was a kind of good, like, just do it and see what happens. And give it 3 months. That was my mum who said that. Give it 3 months and see what happens. And if you run out of everything and you hate it, you can find something else. And knowing I had the support, I guess, of like my partner and family and that kind of thing, I think everyone could kind of just see that I was like not coping with it anymore.
Yeah, no, that's actually is huge, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing to make that decision for yourself, but something else entirely to when you've got other people around you have got your back.
And I think I'm very lucky to have had that. And we were actually moving house kind of in the middle of it, and thankfully we bought our house like before the buyer's market went crazy, so we like bought and sold at kind of the right time. So I knew that there was at least somewhat of a fallback if I earned nothing.
Yeah.
And it was we had enough that I could go 3 months. If I earn absolutely nothing, I've had a really nice holiday and I will go and do something else. And that was kind of, in a way, like, it was kind of almost like a dopamine thing in itself, because I was like, oh, something different. What would I do? I don't know. Like, I'll cross that bridge. So it wasn't too, like, terrifying in a bad way, at least. Just an option, I guess.
Yeah, if we just stretch out that advice to give it a go. I mean, that is applicable across the board. We're not encouraging everybody to quit their jobs
No,
and that sort of thing. But if there's something that you want to try, give it a go.
What's the
and see what's happening.
Like, you know, I'm saying that from a very, very privileged point of view, but if it's not quitting your whole job, maybe it is just sitting down at a computer and writing a chapter of a book, or drawing a stick man and trying to make it look a little less stickish, or like everybody has that thing that they're like, no, I could never do that, but secretly they're like, oh, I really want to.
Yes.
You don't have to share it, but like you should.
It is that feel of failure. What's everybody else going to say?
Yes.
And
and I did have some of that, like, and there were people who were like, what? You did that? Why did you do that? But those are people who don't understand, and that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So a piece of advice you wouldn't take now?
I think, let me think. Probably, this sounds like, I don't know how to word this properly, but I feel like when you go into business on your own, it's a lot to manage. I do all my own finances. I do all my own, even like just trying to work out how much to charge people, that kind of thing. And I feel like this sounds bad on myself, but everyone sort of said, know your worth, don't charge less than what you're worth. And I think I do agree. Like, I don't think you should charge nothing, because A, you deserve to be paid, and B, it pulls down the market for other creatives. I've been lucky to work with some really wonderful people, and a lot of them are very similar kind of people to me. And I feel like sometimes I'll just connect with someone and I'm like, I just know that we can work this out. Like, we can do this together. I don't need to, like, sorry, I charge this, full stop, see you later. So I guess maybe being like a bit flexible in that kind of way is maybe not the norm for people, and might be a bit, it's probably a bit scary. And I think, again, like, I'm in I was privileged enough to be able to do that. But I also wanted to make things feel a bit more accessible so that people could have a go, like, and not just be like, even if it's, okay, I'm going to illustrate your book, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. I normally take 10% up front, charge the rest in 2 pieces, whatever. But if that doesn't work for you, you can pay weekly, or you can pay fortnightly, or we can do it over a year. Like, I don't mind. So I think a lot of people would kind of go like, oh my God, that, but it seems to have brought the right sort of people to me.
Yeah. I think you have to back yourself.
Yeah.
Really, when you're in that position. So if you're working in a writing gig, or an illustrating gig, or book design, or whatever you do, there are these are the standard rates. And what you said too about, you don't want to charge less because it pulls everybody else down. I think there are a lot of people who are flexible and they just don't say it out loud.
Yeah.
Because of that attitude. And I know as an editor, there are plenty of editors out there who I look at their rates and I'm like, they are so low. And then I think, how do you even survive? On that? But I think people who want to work with you will pay you what you're worth when they see you.
I think there's clients for everybody, I guess, is the kind of way that I see it. Like, to illustrate a picture book, someone might charge $500 for a whole book, and someone might charge $20,000, and both of those are like very common. So I think if I say, okay, it's going to cost $2,000, that might be on the lower end. That's still a lot of money to one person, and
absolutely
for that book. But if there's someone who wants to pay $500, there'll be someone who's willing to do it. And if there's someone who has 20 grand to spare, they'll find someone who can do it, who's comfortable with that, and whose work maybe takes 20 times as long as mine.
Yeah.
If I've sent off quotes and had people just be like, whoop, never reply, and I'm like, oh, my bad. But they're not the people that I'm supposed to work with, I guess.
I like that you said there's clients for everybody, that sort of thing. So there are plenty of people wanting to write books.
For everyone. It doesn't have to be so competitive.
I think it's the same with school visits too. Like, every now and then, I mean, you would have seen this as well. You get people going, oh, you have to charge ASA rates for school visits and blah, blah, blah. There are some schools that are really tiny. And I went on a big rant about this a couple of years ago. You can't say you're doing the wrong thing because you're going into a school and you're charging $50, $100, because it's only a 10 kids school.
Exactly. Or maybe it's your kid's school or something. Like people don't know. Even
Yeah.
I think I did, when I put out my Handfish book, I did a couple of school visits that year, and I did them all for free because I mean I didn't even know any better. It was just like I think because the Salvation Army bought a box of them, which was cool, and
Yeah.
she booked me out. She said, "Oh, these schools would love a visit at book week," and I was like, "Great!" Like to me, it was the exposure. Like I was like, "That's so exciting! Absolutely, I'll do it." And then once I started doing them a bit more regularly, I sort of looked at the ASA rates, went, "Oh my God, I can't charge that. That's terrifying," and decided on a percentage that I would charge, and I've kind of upped that each year. But again, like there's a school that I've worked with every year for 3 or 4 years that I have a friend who's a teacher at, and she sort of brought me and I did it free the first year. The second year they were like, "We'd love to pay you, but we can only afford this much." And I was like, "All right, no worries." Like at the end of the day, it is like I don't want to say it's just my time, but it's not. I'm not giving them something that costs me money, if that makes sense. Like
Yes.
I can do it for free or for cheaper if I'd like to, if I choose that.
It is very much a personal choice.
Yeah.
I think on the flip side of that, those schools do need to realise that going and doing a school visit can be, for some authors, their bread and butter.
Yeah, I've heard lots of authors say that like 90% of their income is from book week visits and that kind of thing. And I'm like, how do you get that many? But I think that's the thing. Like, the schools need to know that we're nice if we say, "I'll come for cheap or free." They shouldn't expect that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's almost like it needs to be sent out to every school at the beginning of the year. These are the ASA rates. If you get charged less than this, buy them a cup of coffee.
Buy some copies for the library.
Yeah.
There is that thing too that they think authors are rolling in money.
Oh, yeah. What did I work out? I think I earn 15 cents if I sell Enid to booksellers because hardcovers cost $1 million and then the discount fee, like the wholesale thing. So if I have to post them, I lose money.
It's just gone up too.
Yeah.
So it's just the cost of paper is insane. Anyway,
ridiculous.
Off track. We talk about how expensive it is until the cows come home.
Yeah.
You said you spent your childhood filling notebooks with sentences and scribbles and daydreaming about making books, and you have alluded earlier to living the dream that you had as a child. What was the weirdest or the quirkiest thing that you ever filled a childhood notebook with?
Oh, that is a good question. I have a few thoughts on that. One was I was obsessed with drawing cubes and like variations of cubes. One of my best friends still and I think we learned how to draw a cube in like art class or something, and then we just went like nuts with it. So we drew millions of cubes, and then it was like we started drawing like spherical cubes. That's not a thing, but spheres, I guess. But then we're like, oh, we could draw cubes with little people. I still have a book somewhere that's got little aliens turned into cubes. Like there was just cubes galore. So that was a very strange one. But even when I was doing my book launch, I invited my former teacher, who I hadn't spoken to in like nearly 20 years. And when I was reaching out to him, I was like, oh, I need to go and see if I've still got a school book with like a comment from him. Because I remembered he called me a wordsmith and that had stuck with me forever. So I wanted to be like, you know, a good chunk of the reason that I had kind of got this far. And I found an old English book that I'd used, and it has this story that went through the whole year. We did like a weekly sentence story thing. I haven't read the full thing back yet, but it was about this family that just like really weird stuff happened to. And they were called the Wacko family, which in hindsight I'm like, don't know. But I have to read back through it, but there's some really weird illustrations in there. So I'm having a feeling that is going to be the second strangest one. Some weird grade 6.
That is so cool. I like the fact that you've kept your school books and everything.
It's right here. It's got little numbers. The 2000s laminated, whatever it like God, it's all like crunchy. It's left out in the rain. Yeah, look, you can even see. It's
that is so cool. So
there's like a murder in there or something. It got really weird.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, that sort of brings back memories.
I mean, it's that double-edged sword thing again of like one bad comment from a teacher can ruin a kid. And teachers, I feel like, often get a lot of negative feedback. Like, yeah, there are some crap teachers out there. Everyone has them. It's not their fault necessarily. The school system is very confusing and hard. But there are also some incredible teachers who really do like just carry you through. Like it is those little things where you think back like, oh, like thank you for believing me. Like this teacher was the only one who never made me choose between academic sort of stuff and creativity.
Yeah.
And he was very much like, oh, how can we combine those? Like, go ahead.
Be mindful, I think, of the little throwaway comments that you make is what that comes down to. We might think that kids don't pay attention. They remember stuff like that.
It's almost that like social media footprint. School books are like time capsule. I can picture myself as that little girl sitting there writing about this story because my teacher said, you don't have to do sentences. Your story is amazing. Keep writing it. And when I caught up with him, he said, I loved it. I wasn't just saying it to be nice. He was not a teacher to say stuff to be nice. He would also tell you if you were doing the wrong thing.
Hey, that just honesty is really important.
Yeah.
So now you're living that childhood dream. What's the next or the ultimate milestone that you're aiming to achieve as an author illustrator?
I somehow think about the future constantly and never concretely. I think I would like to be able to have more time to work on my own projects, I guess, and whether that means working more hours, because at the moment I work 3 days a week in theory that my son's in care. So whether that means, when he goes to kindergarten and prep and that kind of thing, and I have more time, I designate, a day or whatever. Or it's suddenly I'm so in demand that I, make enough of a living that I don't need to, take on as many projects as I do. And I mean, I take on the projects because I love them. So it's not necessarily true that I would actually not take on a million. But I think there's a few stories, I've had my novel written-ish since 2019. I did NaNoWriMo or whatever it was back in 2019. Wrote 50,000 words in a month and have rewritten it probably 4 times since then. But it's annoyingly has date stamps in it, so I keep having to go back and change the dates. And at some point, my characters are going to be too old. So I'd love to be able to go and sort of publish some of those or work on those a bit more. I mean, I would, as terrible as I would love to be traditionally published one day, just to say I am. I don't know why. There's no reason for that because I think self-publishing is amazing. Some of my favorite authors are self-published. I know that my work is good, but I still want to be I'm published.
I think it is just that stigma that's...
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's...
As a self-published author, you shouldn't have to prove your worth.
No. So
but you are, every single person I've interviewed on here has said the same thing, that yes, I'm self-published, I fully support that, blah, 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 but I would like that contract.
Because it's just that little twitch in people's eye that still happens when they say, oh, you're an author, you're self-published. I think people just doubt a little bit. And I get it, especially with AI and all this crap that's coming out now, there are some really bad self-published books, but in that, there's also some really bad traditionally published books. So
exactly.
It's at the end of the day, it's just people saying, that's good enough. That'll make money or whatever. So ask me again in 5 years. Hopefully I'll say, no, totally don't care. I started a publish now.
You never know. Never say never.
Yeah,
never know. I tell you, that would be a thankless job, though. So, anyway, your catchphrase, messy can be magic, is beautiful. So I'm just going to make you stretch those out a little bit, if you can. There's 2 sentences to finish. So the first one, messy can be magic, but...
It's okay if it also feels really overwhelming.
Yes. I like that you spun that around nicely. Messy can be magic because
it's how we're meant to be, I think. We're not meant to be perfect all the time and to look a certain way and to be we're meant to get our hands dirty. I think that's part of being a human and being a creative human. You watch kids and toddlers, maybe some of them get upset if they get a bit dirty, but most of the time they're butt naked running through the mud because it's what we're meant to do. So whatever your version of that is.
Yeah, and at what point do we switch, do you reckon?
Someone says go put some clothes on because it's rude. And we get to an age where you don't want to be messy anymore. It's not cute, it's gross, go away. In whatever version that is.
The thing I remember is, and again this comes back to teachers as well, but it may well have been a parent, is the child who was really creative and didn't care what colour they used to draw different things. The teacher who said, no, that's wrong, you can't have green sky. I has to that.
Yeah. That's the little comment that stays with you forever, and you never colour outside the lines again. And we'd never have any of these amazing artists. I mean, it's hard. I watch my son mix all the colours together every day and make brown every time, and I'm but I'm trying very hard not to tell him not to do it.
Yeah, whenever I've tried to make brown, I never can.
Oh, no. It's always grey blue.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm missing, but he makes it perfect every time.
I think messy we could almost say messy is a synonym for creative.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just sort of take the negative connotation out of
That's
messy
it.
and
And like,
turn it into something positive.
yeah, like if my house is kind of falling apart around me, like I have cleaned up my office a bit now, but before there was about 4 coffee cups and 2 bowls, like, and they're all from today.
Yeah.
It's 'cause I've been doing stuff. I've been making things. I've been talking to people. I haven't been sitting here doing nothing. Like I feel like, and that's something I've had to kind of unlearn. It's like I'm not lazy. I'm not all those things that people associate with someone who has ADHD.
Mm.
I'm just doing stuff, and I'm doing stuff that I think matters, and I'm not going to leave that stuff forever. But at the
Yeah.
moment, that's at the bottom of my to-do list.
Yeah.
The other
Yes.
stuff has to happen first, or my brain doesn't work.
It's all about priorities,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think. Yeah. So, what do I want to say? I know there'd be a lot of people out there now just a little bit envious or maybe even inspired by the fact that you not only chose the creative life away from corporate, but you've made it really successful for you. And congratulations on that, because that doesn't just happen, right? That's a lot of hard work that goes into that. But just thinking back, like moving from corporate, which you weren't enjoying, into creativity, which would have been a hard slog at first. What part of yourself did you get back when you chose the creative life?
I feel like I thought that it would be harder to do creative stuff kind of for fun because it's sort of become my work, whatever. Because I mean, when I was working corporately, 9 to 5, sort of, and I was dropping my son off, it like I felt like I was never seeing my family. I'd come home and I didn't. Oh, can I do painting, Mum? Like, no, we're not doing that. It's 5 o'clock. Get dinner on the table. And I was kind of scared that that would keep happening when I moved into, doing that for my job because you hear it all the time, like, oh, the chef doesn't cook dinner at home because like they do it all the time. And there are definitely days where I'm like, no, Mummy's had enough of that. But I think that like creative risk factor kind of came back a bit where I'm not working within a style guide most of the time. I'm not adhering. I mean, if I'm working with a client, of course I'm working within what they want, but it's more usually they're like, oh, whatever you think's nice. So I'm like, cool. And I feel like I can kind of bring that into my family life. And I want my little boy to be creative and I want him to be able to access those parts that I feel like you said, like people say, don't color outside the lines, don't paint the sky blue. That's very much what it's like working in corporate marketing reasons, whatever, human attached reasons. But yeah, I feel like now I'm a bit more like, yeah, okay, like why not? Like I know what the opposite of that looks like, and I don't want him to feel that. So I'm like, yeah, that kind of that comfort with the messy magic, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, no, beautiful answer. Kat, I've loved talking with you. We've actually touched on some areas that I haven't talked about with
Oh, nice.
people, which I think maybe is part of that magical messy as well, just sort of going with the flow. So before we finish, can you just let everybody know, please, where they can find you, where they can find your books, how they can book you for school visits, for author talks, and for all of those services that you offer?
So probably the best place to go is my website, which is peskyploverstudio.com. And on my sort of homepage, and I think on the what do you call it, the the menu, I have yes, there's a services tab as well. So that has information about all the services that I offer. And there's also at the bottom of every page a form that you can fill out. At the moment, I don't actually have a spot on my website to book author visits and things. So I'd say if that's something you're interested in, love to do it. Use the form, and that just goes straight to my email. Both books are available on my website as well. There's a shop tab attached to that. And then I'm also on social media at Pesky Plover Studio on Instagram and Facebook.
Excellent. Too easy.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with next.